The palace was a labyrinth of shining halls and crystal corridors, each more opulent than the last. The air hummed with energy, subtle vibrations that spoke of ancient power and the weight of generations. Humans rarely entered this place. It was a realm where alien elegance mingled with silent authority. Yet here he was, a lone human named Kieran, standing at the edge of an enormous throne room, heart pounding, uncertain why he had been brought to this place. The doors behind him sealed with a soft hiss, leaving only the cold echo of his own footsteps. He had expected grandeur, but what met his eyes was something more intimidating than beauty. A court of beings unlike any he had seen. Their skin shimmered with faint iridescence, eyes larger and more expressive than any human's, and every movement carried the grace of someone who had mastered their world through both intellect and instinct. And at the center of it all, seated upon a throne of crystalline light, was the queen. She radiated authority so complete that even the air seemed to defer to her. Kieran swallowed hard. He had been summoned here not as a guest, but as a curiosity, a test, perhaps even a threat. Yet he had not come alone. Standing beside the queen, a young girl, no older than 17 by human reckoning, watched him with wide, searching eyes. There was a softness in her gaze that contrasted sharply with the cold formality of the rest of the court. She stepped forward, a movement so fluid it seemed almost like gliding, and then without warning she wrapped her arms around him. The effect was instantaneous. The murmurs of the court died. The guards, the nobles, even the queen herself, leaned forward slightly, silence falling heavier than any command could impose. Kieran froze, startled, as the girl's small form pressed against his chest. Her warmth was human, but there was something deeper in the contact. A sense of trust and recognition that defied logic. He had no words. None seemed adequate. He stammered, uncertain whether to step back or lean into her embrace. The girl squeezed gently, as if reassuring him that no harm would come from this gesture. Finally, the queen spoke, her voice a melodic resonance that filled the entire hall. "Let him be," she said, and the word itself seemed to ripple through the room, quieting the tension. "He is not our enemy." Kieran's gaze flicked to her, disbelief etching his features. You mean..." The girl released him slowly and stepped back, but her eyes never left his. "I trust him," she said simply. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, yet it carried the weight of a promise. The court remained silent, observing the exchange like a tide waiting for a signal to move. And then the queen nodded, her gaze meeting Kieran's with a measured intensity. "You have saved more than our lives, human," she said. "You have saved the future of this realm." Kieran blinked, trying to process her words. Memories of the events that led him here surged forward, the crash on the distant moon, the desperate plea for help broadcast across the stars, the ambush by marauders that should have ended everything. Somehow, against all odds, he had endured. Somehow he had found the girl amidst the chaos and shielded her from death. And now, standing in this throne room, he realized the significance of that act. It was not just gratitude in her eyes. It was recognition of courage, reverence for something uniquely human. The girl stepped closer again, lifting her small hand. Tentatively, Kieran reached out, brushing his fingers against hers. The contact sparked a warmth that went beyond the physical, a resonance of shared understanding. The court watched, captivated, as the human and the alien girl stood together. A bridge between worlds built on trust and courage. The queen rose from her throne, her figure towering yet composed. She circled them slowly, observing Kieran as though measuring the weight of his soul. "Tell me, human," she said finally, "how is it that one so fragile in form carries strength so vast in spirit?" Kieran hesitated. Strength was not something he had sought. Survival had been instinct. Compassion had been reaction, and yet, in this moment, he realized that the sum of his choices, every act of defiance against fear and danger, had shaped him into something worthy of notice. "I just did what had to be done," he said honestly. "I didn't think of it as bravery. He trailed off, searching for words adequate to convey the depth of human empathy. The instinct to protect, to reach out when others cannot. I couldn't leave her behind. The girl smiled, her expression luminous, and for the first time the court saw not a human alone, but a human standing with someone who believed in him completely. The queen studied this interaction, her eyes narrowing slightly as if calculating the implications. Then, unexpectedly, she spoke with a tone that softened, but carried immense weight. "Then perhaps the worlds are not so different as I thought," she murmured. "Perhaps there is merit in the species that others dismiss so easily." The hall seemed to exhale collectively, the atmosphere shifting from tense vigilance to something resembling awe. Whispers began to ripple through the court, cautious but filled with a new respect. The girl's simple act of trust had broken centuries of protocol, centuries of suspicion, and in doing so, had transformed the perception of a human in the eyes of an entire alien civilization. Kieran felt the weight of their gaze, the enormity of the moment, but he also felt something more profound: acceptance. Here, in a place that once seemed impenetrable, he had found belonging. And in that belonging, he discovered that courage was not measured in weapons or strategies, but in the willingness to connect, to trust, to act selflessly. The queen gestured for him to follow. Kieran obeyed, stepping past the threshold of the throne room into a corridor that seemed even more magnificent than before. Holographic lights danced along the walls, depicting the history of a civilization that had spanned millennia. Yet, for all its grandeur, it was not the displays or the architecture that held his attention. It was the girl walking beside him, her hand brushing against his occasionally, grounding him in this alien reality that was rapidly becoming a home. As they walked, she spoke softly, almost to herself. "No one has ever stayed with me like that," she said. "No one has ever trusted me, and yet you did." Kieran glanced at her, unsure how to respond. "I didn't do it because of trust," he said slowly. "I did it because it felt right. Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't need a reason. It just is." Her eyes glistened, and for the first time she laughed, sound as bright and clear as crystal chimes. "Then I understand humans better than I thought," she said. "Perhaps that is why you are here, why the queen allowed you into our hall." The corridor ended in a vast chamber, a garden suspended in zero gravity, with plants that shimmered and floated as if weightless. Streams of light cascaded from above, illuminating flowers that changed color with every movement. Kieran had never seen anything like it, and yet, for all its beauty, was the girl's presence that made it feel alive. She released his hand reluctantly and stepped to a pedestal at the center. From it, she plucked a small, crystalline object and handed it to him. "This is a token," she said, "from our world to yours. It is a reminder that even in the vastness of space, trust and courage are never wasted." Kieran accepted it, feeling the subtle warmth of its energy seep into his palm. I don't know what to say." "Then say nothing," she replied. "Just remember that you are welcome here, as a friend, as someone who belongs." The queen's voice echoed softly through the garden. "Kieran," she said, "you have shown that humanity is capable of more than we imagined. You carry a strength that is neither in armor nor in weapons, but in heart. Remember this, for it is the greatest power of all." Kieran nodded, the weight of her words settling over him. He realized that the future of this alliance, the bond between worlds, rested not on treaties or diplomacy, but on acts of humanity's simple, brave, and selfless choices that transcended culture, species, and fear. As he left the palace, the halls once forbidding now felt like a place of possibility. He glanced back, catching the girl's gaze once more. She smiled, a silent promise passing between them, a recognition that their paths were intertwined. The palace doors closed behind him, but the echo of that hugged the moment that had silenced an empire lingered, a testament to the enduring power of trust and courage. Kieran stepped into the corridor leading to his ship, ready to face whatever lay ahead, carrying not just the memory of a strange and wondrous world, but the knowledge that humanity, in its quiet, steadfast way, could change even the most formidable hearts. And somewhere in the palace the queen watched, her expression unreadable, but her thoughts clear. Perhaps the human had shown them the future, and perhaps in doing so, he had earned a place among them not just as a visitor, but as a bridge between worlds,